I'm in our shower today, and I wanted to show you our on-demand water heater. I've showed this before, but I don't know how well I've explained it. When I first got it years ago, I went through a thorough demonstration of how it worked and all that stuff when we still had the pop-up camper. That was years ago. My dad bought this for me because he said he wanted me to test it out for him because he wanted to get one while he was building his house. He was building a house, and he wanted to install it in the house. Well, I knew that was not really true. Probably not. He wanted to give me a gift, but didn't know how to really just give a gift and say, hey, here's a gift. So I've been testing it out for him, although when we went down to visit him a long time ago, he already had one in his camper, so it's not like we were testing out. I don't know. I was glad he got it for us. I didn't know anything about him until he got it. He kept trying to explain it to me, but I didn't know what he was talking about. This thing is pretty cheap. Now, it's a lot bigger than what you can see. I got a ceiling here in the shower, and the lighting's bad, but let's see. That should be a pretty good angle of it. It's got two knobs here, and it sits right up against the wall. You can see I got metal behind it and above it. That way, if it gets too hot, nothing catches fire. I don't think it would. We had this in a shower tent. We had this in a shower tent, and we had this in a shower tent when we had the pop-up camper. Never had a problem with it overheating anything. You could get it pretty close to the shower tent also, and it just wouldn't melt anything. So it doesn't get too bad, but you do want to take some safety. Now, it does ventilate out the top, but just like a propane stove, cook stove like you have in your house, a gas stove. I know a lot of people have those overhead exhaust, but a lot of homes don't have those either. I lived in a house that I rented. It had a propane stove with no stove hood. I think they call them a hood. So we have carbon monoxide detectors in the house, of course, because we have a wood stove and just all kinds of things that could go wrong. But I don't think this is ever going to produce enough gas that it would ever give us that much carbon monoxide. But be safe. Now, you can buy some that do have a ventilation that you can pump outside, but these are camping water heaters. You take them camping, or you put them in your RV. Now, one of the things I've seen in the groups, the Facebook groups about these things, is you hang them up against a tree or something, you try to use it, the slightest little breeze blows out the flame in it. I'll explain how all this works in a minute. But it blows out the flame, and it took us a while to figure out that you couldn't have this on the outside. You had to have it on the inside so the wind wouldn't hit it. And once we realized what the problem was, never had a problem with it again. And now we've got it in the house. It's permanently attached to the wall. We never have a problem with it, except yesterday, but I'm going to explain that too. It's just, maintenance. It originally comes with a shower nozzle. That has a on-off switch. This is the original shower nozzle, and it has an on-off switch. Well, that thing breaks in about 30 seconds. That's about the worst thing about this, is the whole entire hose assembly. We still have the same shower head, but what we did was, this is the inlet. This comes from our water tank outside. We have an IBC water tank, this hose here. And so the water is pumped with an RV pump into the house. I've showed all this before. All I got to do is open this. Maybe you can hear it kick on. I open that up, and that turns the water on. You can buy these at the hardware store. That hooks right up to the hose, and that just made it a lot easier for us than trying to find another one of these cheap plastic nozzles that you got to replace all the time. Of course, it gets calcium in there. You got to clean that. We take the nozzle off if we're not going to shower, and we just use the hose itself. That way we can fill up buckets or dishwater or whatever we're going to use. It's just easier, flows faster, don't have to wait for it to squirt out. And of course, with all the calcium in our well, it squirts out in about 30 different directions. One of the things about the RV pump, kind of a side note, not that your home would ever have an RV pump, but our little tiny house does, is you can overpressurize these hoses pretty quickly. Those RV pumps can get up like 60 psi. It's ridiculous. And it swells up and it acts like it's going to explode. Before I understood how to turn down the water pump, there's a little screw on it that you can turn down the pressure. This thing will leak. I'm sorry about the lighting. The lighting is just going to be a problem because it's so dark in here. I got my light here. So this hooks up to a regular 20-pound propane tank, and we run this hose out to the propane tank. The downside to the propane tank is you never know when it's going to go empty. I never check it because it's locked in a little corner. It's hard to get to, so I never check it. And for some reason, I don't understand. You would think that I could avoid this. It always happens when Carolyn's taking a shower. It runs out of propane. Always. I guess that's a good thing. That way I don't have to jump out of the shower and go change out the propane. Now, as you know, propane for us has gotten really cheap. We get this military discount, $11 per tank. I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. Propane's the way to go for us. Now, I know a lot of people say propane isn't off-grid. I feel like it's a good primary system for us to be off-grid. We can heat our water with firewood. We've done it many times. When we first started being nomads, we heated our water with fire. We put our little RV pump next to it and was able to siphon out the hot water until Dad got this, and it just made life a little easier. I think propane's fine. The water heater kicks on when you give it water. When you turn this on, the water heater kicks on. That's the only time you're using energy. Now with your home water heater, you'll find that it kicks on even if you're not using it. You go to work, that water in the tank cools off, and the water heater kicks on, shuts off, kicks on, keeps it warm all day. This only warms water when you need it. Now, we have it all the way off most of the time. As a matter of fact, anytime we turn it up, we always get in the habit of turning it back down when we're done using it. That way the next person comes in, they can control whatever water they want. That way we're not wasting propane. So when you kick it on, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but inside this vent, you might be able to see flames kick on. Yeah, right up there at the top you saw that. So the flames are now heating that water up. Now you hear that clicking maybe? That clicking is a little fire starter. You see those a lot in your Coleman camp stove. You'll click it and you get that little pilot light click thing going on. That's the same thing that's going on there. The difference is when the water kicks on, that clicky thing is ran by 2 D batteries. D-size batteries, these are big ones. Now, the water heater has all kinds of safety mechanisms in it. Overheat protection, low water protection, just on and on. There's all kinds of protections. Well, I never really paid attention to how all that operated. I was glad it existed, but I wasn't sure. Last year, we had to replace these D batteries. Now, prior to that, we only had to replace it once. The thing is, when we used it as nomads, we would have to set this up. Take down the shower tent, set the shower tent back up, and then we got into the truck camper. We always kept the water heater inside the truck cab, you know, the back seat of the truck cab. And then when we needed it, I would have to set it up and take it down because we just didn't have enough room for a full-time shower in the little truck camper. So last year we replaced the batteries. Well, like I said, we only replaced them once the whole time we were nomads, but we never used it. The problem with this is even though the flame is shut off, it still kicks on for a little bit every time you turn it on. That way it can sense what temperature, I'm guessing, what temperature you've got it set at. And then once it realizes, okay, I've not met the parameters, this thing is off, then the flame shuts off. And then you get cold water. It's not the way it was designed to be used. It's designed to always use hot water. It's a shower. That's what this is for. It's a camping shower. So there is a little bit of problem with it. Now, if you were to hook it up in your home, you could actually replace your water heater with this. I always said that if I ever built a home, I would use this. Well, I built a home, I didn't use it like you would think with a regular faucet and it has cold and hot water, but you could. It wouldn't be hard. Dad hooked up his RV. He took out the RV water heater, put this in its place, had the whole system. Now, he had a cat, so his cat would turn on the water and it would just run hot water all day and it would waste all that propane. His had a little button on there where you could shut it off. Ours doesn't shut off. That button would be really nice, but we don't have it, so this is a pretty cheap one. It's like 160 bucks. As a matter of fact, I'll put a link to that in the little thing down below. right here at the corner of the video, one side or the other, you'll see a little thing that says product list or something like that. I'll put that there. The battery died on us again yesterday. What I realized was it was still clicking like it was supposed to. It would start up and then just shut off. Start up and shut off, like we had the thing all the way turned down. It's what it's supposed to do when it's all the way turned down. What I realized yesterday is that battery does more than just turn on that clicky thing. It tells the computer inside that the water's not too hot, it's not too cold, there's enough water coming into it. It runs a little computer in there. Well, that's pretty neat considering it's just 2D batteries and it lasts all year. As much as we use this thing, I mean, we use it 20, 30, 40 times a day. It comes on. I really like this. Now, you could get a bigger, better model and all that, but for the price, this is just absolutely perfect. Now, last year when the batteries died, it did the same thing. It would just shut off. I kept thinking, oh, maybe I need to replace the propane tank. I replaced the propane tank. Nothing happened. Nothing fixed it, so you just replace the batteries. So I'm going to get a backup set of batteries. That way I always got them. Now, I did buy another water heater. It is not the same brand. This is called a Marey, M-A-R-E-Y. And like I said, I'll put a link to that right here at one of the corners of the video here. YouTube is selling these. Not me, but YouTube. I went to Amazon last year to look for this. They didn't have them. Marey wasn't selling them. Nobody was selling them. So I had to buy a different brand, but I bought the same BTUs, the same water pressure, the same gallons per minute. Everything was the same as this one. But now I find that YouTube's selling them. I look like, man, I wish I'd have bought it from YouTube. But of course, back then they didn't have it on YouTube. I am highly recommending this if you're wanting to get off grid a little bit. So again, if you're looking for one of those, go ahead and take a look at that link. Otherwise, can you click that super thanks button down at the bottom? I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to reduce your water heating costs. Thanks for watching.